So now I'm going to turn it on over to our friend John Woods. He shared a little bit about himself, but presently he is the athletic director at Libertyville High School. He is a part of their chapter there, which is Life of a Wildcat. And just getting to know John and his heart, you know, our modules that we live and breathe here at ILHPP, I believe are very much how John lives his life. I'm guessing he worked out this morning, whether he wanted to or not, because he knows it's good for him. And John, we just invite you to share what you have for us, and thanks for being here.
You bet. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And Julie, you are right. I did get my workout in, sweat before screens. And I feel like a dog on the first day of pheasant hunting, just pulling at the chain, trying to hold me back right now. So my hope today is that you walk away with a few strategies that we have, that we teach our Wildcats Will Peak Performance and Leadership Group here at Libertyville High School, and all a part of our Wildcats Rise and ILHPP chapter at Libertyville High School. I've been a part of this for 4 years, and just certainly honored and grateful to have the opportunity to lock arms with the ILHPP staff. With that, I'm going to share my screen. I think we've all gotten pretty good at this as long as I have share screen access. Want to make sure that you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes,
you just give me a thumbs up or nod heads. Good. All right. So Wildcats Will, as I mentioned, is our peak performance and leadership development group here at Libertyville High School. Started 4 years ago when I got here, and it's really taken off over the last couple of years, as I mentioned. So we kick off our day with a little thunderstruck. Who the heck does not want to start their day with a little thunderstruck? And so every time this song comes on to start our morning at 7:45 on Friday morning in the Studio Theater, it just really gets the place going. And oftentimes 7:45 kids will say, oh, it's too early, it's too early. What we want to do is give them the fastest 45 minutes to start their day and get things moving in the right direction. So we kick it off with a little thunderstruck, and there's a little sample for you. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about today. I gave you a little introduction, but we're really going to talk about the 5-step goal process. And I'm going to share some strategies that you can implement today to begin your 5-step goal process. We'll talk a little bit about E plus R equals O, the importance of focus and how to train it, and then knowing your why. And then we'll finish up with a little belief. But that second bullet there, what gives you goosebumps? That's what I want you to think about as we begin getting into this 5-step goal process. And when I say goosebumps, like what is that big goal that you have that you want to accomplish? What gives you goosebumps? And so I do want to give you, I mentioned professionally what I've done. Following my college career, I played football at SAU Carbondale. I trained for the 1992 Olympics. I was ranked 5th in the nation, but fell short of my goal, earning my trip to Barcelona, which was the host site of the 1992 Olympics. And you're probably wondering, well, wait, you played football. What were you ranked 5th in the nation in? I was the number 5 ranked Simon Says player in the country. And like I said, I fell short. They only took the top 2. So I was a little frustrated with my performance. Nonetheless, good opportunity for me to get better. So I'd like to start just by giving you a little sample of some Simon Says here. So I can see some screens. I don't know how to make my screen bigger, so I can only see like 5 or 6 of you. But let's start with a little Simon Says. Everybody is seated, right? Just give me a thumbs up if you're seated. Good. Well, let's get loose. Like I mentioned earlier, sweat before screen. So let's have everybody stand up and we'll get started. All right, good. Those of you that stood up can go ahead and sit down because you just lost. Got him. It's early. That's all right. We'll give everybody a do-over. I mentioned I like golf, and so we'll do a little mulligan or a breakfast ball or whatever you want to call it. So with that, everybody's back in the game. Simon Says, clap your hands. Yeah, get some juice flowing. Simon Says, stop clapping your hands. Good. Now, I want you to throw up the ones with your right hand. So Simon says, throw up the 1. Good. Now, Simon says, make a circle with your index finger and your thumb on your right hand. Good. Please make sure we can see it. Hold it up high enough so everybody can see it. Now, Simon says, take that circle you just made with your index finger and your thumb and put it on your chin. All right, now I want you to look around the screen and see how many of us have a chin on our cheek. Good. All right, Simon says we'll stop playing the game. All right, here is the point of that. So some of you were like in between because you're like, wait a second, that's the chin is here and he put it on his cheek. People don't follow what you say, they will follow what you do. I want you to write that down. People, and actually you're going to have access to this, Carrie, you can share it with whoever's on the screen. I can probably drop it in the chat when I figure out how to do that. People don't follow what you say, they follow what you do. So let's go back to what gives you goosebumps. What is the one goal that you have for yourself? You don't have to share it. Think about it. Maybe write it down. What gives you goosebumps? And that is going to be the big goal that you're going to work on today. Oftentimes, we set a goal, but then the question becomes, how are we going to get there? So when you think about people that start their New Year's with a resolution and say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to work out every day, whatever that goal is, great. Oftentimes, it doesn't come with a plan. So how are we going to get there? How are we going to reach our goal is often the question that goes left unanswered. And then athletes on the screen, you may have heard a coach say, you need to rise up to the occasion, or we need you to step up. The reality is that we don't step up or rise to the occasion, we sink to the level of our training. And the better our training, the shorter the fall. So the question becomes, how do we train? You've also probably heard a coach say, or somebody say, you got to trust the process. That became kind of a thing when Joe Madden was the manager for the Cubs. I remember they beat the Cardinals. I was a little salty about that, being a Cardinal guy. But he talked about trusting the process. There were shirts all around the state of Illinois, trust the process, trust the process. My question was, what does that mean? Can you articulate your process? And if you can't articulate the process that you expect me to trust, then how do you expect me to trust? And so today, we're going to put that process, start building our process. So the 5-step goal process is simple. Number 1, you set your intention. What gives you goosebumps? Number 2, identify the behaviors necessary for you to reach that goal. Identify the behaviors necessary for you to reach that goal. Identify the behaviors that you must commit to on a daily basis to reach your goal. Number 3, schedule it. Number 3 is schedule it. Number 4, measure it. And then number 5, assess your progress. So going back to that New Year's resolution, oftentimes I'll set a goal that I want to gain 10 pounds, whatever it is, 10 pounds of muscle mass. Good. What are the behaviors I must commit to? Do I have it scheduled? Am I measuring my progress and assessing my progress? So let's start with a little quote from Michelangelo. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss, but that it is too low and we reach it. So when I talk about that goal that gives you goosebumps, set that thing high. When I first became an AD, I'd hear coaches say, well, we want to go to state. My question was, good. What are you going to do when you get there? I want to become a starter on the team. Good. What are you going to do once you become a starter on that team? More importantly, what are you going to commit to in order to make that happen? So our greatest danger is not that we aim too high and miss, it's that we aim too low and we reach it. So what is that big goal for you? So step number 1, set your intention and set it high. Set your intention and set it high. And a couple strategies that I'm going to share with you as we go through each one of the steps. Strategy 1 for setting your intention is create a vision board. And then number 2, we got to start acting the part. So number 1, that vision board. Here's some examples from our students in our Wildcats Will group. And this was done on Google Slides, cut out some pictures, throw in some quotes, whatever it is that is going to align with the goal or the intention that you set. Fill your vision board with images or quotes that will help you reach your goal. And the idea here is that you see it every single day. So create your slide, print it in color, put it next to your bed so you see it first thing when you wake up, and it's the last thing you see before you go to sleep. Put it on your dresser, put it in the bathroom sink, whatever it is you start your day with, that's where that vision board needs to be. So there's one example. This individual has some quotes and a couple images of the sports that she plays. Here's another one. Again, quotes, images. This individual is committed to Wildcats Will, so threw up that cat right there in the middle. Again, vision board, you want to start your day by seeing it. You want to end your day by seeing it, because we need to continue to see it in order to believe it. I want to share a little story here with you. Trevor Moawad is an author. The late Trevor Moawad, he just passed away in September. He's written 2 books. One is It Takes What It Takes, and then the other one is Getting to Neutral. 2 books that I highly recommend. The first book is It Takes What It Takes. The second one is Getting to Neutral. Trevor is a peak performance coach, has worked with some of the greatest teams at the collegiate level and the professional level. Also locked arms and was in business with Russell Wilson, who's the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks for many years. Trevor, I want to share this little story here. It's about 2 minutes, and I hope the audio works. So just give me a thumbs up if you are able to hear.
Well, my dad had gone to a Toastmasters early on and heard one of the most successful magazine entrepreneurs in the world speak. He comes back and tells me, I just had a chance to hear one of the most successful magazine entrepreneurs in the world speak. And he said, when are you taking your SAT? I said, I'm taking it next year. He said, well, this guy was failing out of high school. He was struggling. He was raised by a single mom in the Midwest, but he promised his mother he would take a test called the SAT. So he takes the SAT in May, his junior year, doesn't expect anything, gets his score back in June. Now the SAT, which I don't know how many your population know, but it's a standardized test with a math part and a verbal part. Both are scored out at 800 points. Well, this guy takes it. He's bombing. He's failing out of school. He doesn't expect anything as he's telling the story at Toastmasters. Well, he gets a 1480 out of 1600. So he's stunned, right? That would be for the smart people that listen to your podcast. Yeah. Right, cognitive dissonance.
I
got
a 900 on my SATs, just
right.
to give people a friend.
Right, and I got a
1090.
And I got a 1010, right? I was just, hey, 4 digits is a miracle, right? But it's a hard test, and you know it's a variety of different things. So he gets the score, and his mother, doing what any mother would do, knowing her kid, says, "Did you cheat?" Right? She knows her son. And he said, "I swear to God, I tried to cheat, but the way the numbers were and the scantrons and the bubbles, you couldn't cheat." So she says, "You mean to tell me you really got that score?" He said, "Yeah, I got the score." So he's stunned, Tom. So as my dad's telling me the story, I'm like, okay. So he says, all right. So what he decides is, because he realizes he's smart and he's going into his senior year, he says, I'm going to go to class. Now he starts to go to class. He doesn't hang out with who he did when he didn't go to class. All right. Teachers see him in class and they said, hey, maybe Franklin Pierce, maybe we missed the boat on this kid. So they start to treat him differently. Well, as the guy would tell the story, he graduates, goes to a community college, goes on to Wichita State, goes on to the Ivy League, and becomes this massively successful magazine entrepreneur. So I said, okay, well, the guy was always smart. He just needed a standardized test to unlock it. My dad said, no, that's not the story. This is what I want you to understand. He said, 12 years after all this guy's success, he gets a letter in the mail from Princeton, New Jersey. Doesn't think anything about it. The next day, his wife says, you're going to open it. He opens it. True story. It turns out the SAT board will periodically review their test taking procedures and the policies. The year he took the test, he was one of 13 people sent the wrong SAT score. His actual score was a 740 out of 1600. And he said, people think my whole life changed when I got to 1480. But what happened? My whole life changed when I started acting like a 1480. And what does a 1480 do? He goes to class. Well, this is one of the first stories I would share when I had my opportunity at Alabama, Florida State, or Georgia. So A, your language is powerful, but number two, your behavior is way ahead of your success. And so many people let their feelings dictate what they do, as opposed to throw your behavior out there. Russell Wilson's 5'10". He shouldn't be playing pro football, but he behaves like the best quarterback in the country. And he's done that since before he was at that level. And then his feelings and emotions and his skill caught up to that behavior. I think the lesson my dad was trying to teach me ultimately was, in addition to my language, what I do, not how I feel about my past, is going to determine who I am in the future. And that's what I think neutral thinking is. And I think neutral thinking isn't just thinking, I think it's behavior, but I think it's language. And so your behavior is what's going to change you. But you also have to start by asking yourself, what do I want and why do I want it?
All right, so as Trevor was talking about, like the guy got a 1480 on his SAT, but he really got a 740. And so what happens is the 1480 guy starts behaving like a 1480. And remember, we started this with a little activity. People follow what you do, not what you say. And so when we start behaving like a champion, when we start behaving like a 1480, all of a sudden, we begin seeing the results of our behaviors. And so one of the things that we talk about here is that leadership drives culture, culture drives behaviors, behaviors drive results. So setting a goal is the start. The vision board and the behaviors are the second step, or the second piece in our 5-step goal process. So what are the behaviors necessary to attain your goal? That 1480, he started behaving like a 1480. What did he do? He went to class. That's a good start. He started hanging out with people that were 1480s that were going to set him up for success. Those were the behaviors that he began engaging in and committing to in order to get to where he wanted to get to, which is now a successful entrepreneur. So we talk a lot about our hierarchy of needs at Libertyville. And those of you that are familiar with Maslow and psychology and his hierarchy of needs for humans, we developed our own. And at the very foundation of our hierarchy is relationships and engagement, leadership development, and culture cultivation. That entire foundation is rooted in people and behaviors. And then as you work your way up our pyramid, we begin focusing on the physical and the mental strength and conditioning, the nutrition, the rest and the recovery. We believe that if we have a firm foundation built in relationships, culture cultivation, and leadership, relationships, and then we throw in the physical and the mental, the rest recovery and nutrition, then we begin to perform at optimal level, which is our skills, our drills, our fundamentals, plays, X's and O's, whatever the performance looks like. So I'll be referencing our hierarchy periodically. So when we talk about behaviors, I want you to think about our hierarchy. And as you begin to build your plan and your 5-step process, the behaviors, you may want to pick one in each of these 5 categories on the left: nutrition, sleep, rest, recovery. Pick another one for leadership, another one for physical and mental training, another one for relationships. And then on the right, we talk about our signal lights, our body language, our focus, our self-talk, our physical feelings. Now, don't worry so much about the ones on the right, but if you look at those 5 categories on the left and you pick one behavior from each of those 5 or 6 categories that aligns with your goal, and you commit to those behaviors on a daily basis, I promise you that you will begin moving closer to your goal than ever before. So think about your goal. What are the behaviors and the commitments? Think about that hierarchy of needs, and then write down specific and measurable goals. So for example, nutrition. What is good nutrition? What is good hydration? What does properly fueling our bodies look like? Those are categories, or pick a category and identify a behavior that you need to commit to. Make sure it's measurable. You might say, I need to drink 128 ounces of water every single day. Good. That's a behavior that we're going to commit to. Might say I need 5 servings of fruit every single day. Good. I might say I need to make sure that I eat or take in fewer than 1,200 milligrams of sodium every single day. Good. Those are all behaviors. They're measurable. Measure. Sleep, 8 to 10 hours of sleep every single night. Mine is 8. Yours might be 9, might be 10. You decide what's best for you, and then you must be consistent. Can't get 8 hours on Monday, 10 hours on Tuesday, 13 hours on Saturday, and then 6 on Thursday night. Must be consistent. Set your alarm for what time you're going to bed, and then set your alarm for what time you need to get up. Leadership, we talk about the 6 C's. We talk about connection, character, consistency, communication, courage, and competence. So when we start thinking about those 6 areas of leadership, these are the areas that we really focus on. And when we talk about connection, we're talking about connection with people we are in our friend group. We talk about connection with staff members. We talk about connection with coaches. We talk about building connection. When we talk about character, it's real simple. Do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, and do it that way every single time. Consistency, are you the same person on Monday as you are on Tuesday, as you are on Wednesday? We've all had that coach or that teacher that when you walked into class on Monday, they're like, I'm doing pretty good for a Monday. Or I don't feel real well today, so sit down and do this packet. I don't want to hear from you. And then on Tuesday, they're excited to see you. They're energetic and they're knocking it out with the most fantastic lesson ever. Consistency. And then communication. How do we communicate with people? And do we have the courage to battle through any obstacles and adversity? We know that we will be faced with obstacles. We will be faced with adversity along our journey. Do we have the courage to step into those obstacles or that adversity? And then, of course, competence. Are we able to do, are we working on the skills necessary to achieve our goal? And then leaders are learners. So I talked about strategies. If you don't have an Optimize account, I would encourage you to do that. I mentioned leaders are learners. I read all the time. Optimize is a wonderful way. If you want to start with it, It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. Sign up on optimize.me. It is free. Brian Johnson provides a 20 to 25 minute MP3 of the big keys or the big takeaways from each of the 1,000+ books he's reviewed. There's also, if you like to have a hard copy, a 6-page PDF with those same big takeaways. Optimize.me is a fantastic resource that is free for you. I encourage you to start with It Takes What It Takes, and then begin to build your library of books and begin growing your leadership. The physical, what does your training require? 100 pull-ups a day, 200 push-ups a day, 300 air squats a day, run 3 miles in under 20 minutes, whatever. Notice those are measurable. Whatever your workout is, make sure that we write it down, make sure that it's measurable, and then, of course, make sure we schedule it. And whatever your workout is, some kids will say, well, we don't have practice this summer, or I don't have something guided, I don't have something structured. We all have access to Google. Whatever your goal is, find the behaviors, the workout that is necessary for you to reach your goal, and then begin structuring it yourself. That's the physical. Then when we talk about the mental, spend time in solitude every day. So if you, on Optimize, if you check out Lead Yourself First, that little 20, 25 minute MP3 or 6-page PDF, Brian talks about leading yourself first requires you to spend time in solitude every single day. That could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, where you are deep in thought and just going through thinking about how to grow yourself with a laser-like focus on your big goal. But spend time in solitude. We get so much input from these things. You can't go stand in the line at grocery stores without somebody sitting there scrolling through their phone. Sit at a stoplight. How many of us have ended up behind a car at a stoplight? The light turns green and they sit there and you see their head in this position and you know they're looking at their phone. Inputs, inputs, inputs. We need to eliminate inputs or reduce inputs. Spend time in solitude every single day. 2 more resources. Brian Kane, if you download the podcast app or hit it up on whatever device that you have access to, Brian Kane has a 3-minute daily mental performance daily podcast where he shares some fantastic thoughts, ideas, and strategies that will help you grow in the mental game. Dr. Rob Gilbert is a sports psychologist at Montclair State University out in New Jersey. He has a 3-minute podcast every single day. It's called Success Hotline. Again, filled with fantastic nuggets to help grow your mental toughness. And then, of course, meditation and visualization, two very important concepts that Brian and Rob, Dr. Rob, spend a lot of time talking about and the importance of, and they also share strategies. In fact, Brian's Sunday message is all about meditation, and he'll take you through a 6 to 8 to 12 minute meditation, and it's really powerful. And then, of course, breathing. One of the strategies that we talk about with our kids is spending time with our breath. We teach them the 6-2-8 triangle breathing strategy. And you'll see our kids when they come up to bat, or when they're on the blocks, when they're on the diving board, when they're shooting free throws, when they're in a timeout, when they're on the sidelines, spending time in their breathing. The 6-2-8 triangle is simple. We want to make sure that we get present, focus on our breathing. Imagine a triangle from the tip of your nose to the corner of your mouth, to the other corner of your mouth, and back to your nose. And as you breathe in through your nose for 6, you want to start drawing that line from the tip of your nose to the corners of your mouth and back to your nose. Breathe in for 6, hold it for 2, out your mouth for 8. The entire time, we want to be drawing that triangle, visualizing drawing that triangle from the tip of our nose to the corners of our mouth and back. Great strategy to get yourself present. You don't have to do it for 20 minutes. In fact, I would encourage you not to, but whatever you can do to get present with your breathing, focusing on the triangle, will help you eliminate some of the clutter from your brain and help you get present. When we talk about relationships, you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. If you go back to Trevor's video, he talked about that kid got a 1480 on the SAT. He started hanging out with people that scored 1480s. He started going to class. He started surrounding himself with people that aligned with where he wanted to go. Think about the 5 that you hang out with the most. Are they lifting you up, or are they pulling you down? And those 5 could be people that you follow on Snap, on the Gram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Whoever is filling the most time in your headspace, those are the 5. Are they lifting you up? Are they pulling you down? So one of the strategies that we challenge our kids at Libertyville on the first day of Wildcats Will in August is open up your social media and start deleting the people that you compare yourself to. Open your social media, start deleting the people that you compare yourself to. In addition, eliminate any negativity from your social media. So that is a strategy that I would challenge you to engage in right now. If you're comparing yourself, or if there are people out there that share negative messages, get rid of them from your life. So here's an image of a little tugboat that sunk. Anybody want to guess why this little boat sunk? I can't really see hands, so anybody can just shout out.
Go ahead, George.
It hit a rock.
Good guess. Hit a rock. Anybody else? It's a great guess, especially given that there's a little rock over here in the bottom right. It would follow that there might be more. Here's what happened with that boat. Didn't sink because of the water around it or the rocks around it. It sunk because of the water that gets into it. Similar to our brain, similar to our minds. Whatever we allow in has the potential to sink our ship. So we cannot let what's happening around us get inside of us and weigh us down. And that is a choice that we make when we friend somebody, when we spend time on social media, when we hang out with people whose behaviors do not align with where we say we want to go. That was step 2. So thinking about those behaviors, we spend a lot of time on behaviors, not just with individuals, but also within our teams. Step 3, schedule it. So I don't know if you, let me see here. I'm going to share my calendar. So if you look at my calendar, that's my principal's calendar on the right, so don't pay attention to that. But if you look at my calendar here, I mentioned I get 8 hours of sleep every single night. I schedule it. You're probably thinking, John, why do you schedule your sleep? Why wouldn't I schedule my sleep if that is an important behavior that I must engage in order to become the most physically fit person, the most uncommon person I can become? Why wouldn't I schedule it if it's that important? So I schedule it. And then if you look at my, let's go down here to the bottom. So before I go to sleep, I've got a little PM shutdown at 8:30. That's when my phone goes away. That's when I brush my teeth, I do my little yoga meditation, and then I do my little reading. Whatever your PM routine that you want to engage in, schedule it. Whatever it takes to get you to slow down your brain, eliminate the blue screens, shut off your phone, put it away before you get into your sleep. And then if you look at my AM routine, I mentioned sweat before screens. 5 a.m., I'm in the pool. 5 a.m., I'm doing my workout. 5 a.m., whatever it is. So that is how I schedule the blocks of time during my day that I control. I control my PM influences my AM. And then, of course, when the day starts, sometimes all heck can break loose. But I've got my PM shutdown routine. Well, I've got family time, PM shutdown routine, sleep, AM routine. And then if you look at 6:30 to 7:15, that's my deep work. So every single day I spend 45 minutes either on a podcast, on an optimize, reading a book, preparing for Wildcats Will. That is my deep work, which means don't bother me from 6:30 to 7:15. I'm in the office at 6:30. My door is locked. And if people come to my door, I'm not even here. Don't even knock because I'm not answering. That is my deep work. I'm scheduling it because it is that important for my growth and my development. And then there's a prep for ILHPP, 7:30 to 9:30. Don't bother me. I'm busy. So that's what a calendar looks like. When we talk about scheduling it, schedule it. And if I showed you every day, in Google Calendar, it's so fantastic. You can color code it. You can push it out every day until for the rest of time. But plan your 168. There's 168 hours in a week. Plan your 168. Be on the offensive and control your time. Be on the offensive and control your time. Put it in your calendar. And then, of course, that PM and AM routine are really what you control, because sometimes during the day, for the students on here, your day is scheduled. So honestly, that block of time could be already entered. During the summer, that is when you begin to have free time, unstructured time. So I would encourage you even more to schedule your day. So once it's scheduled, I wanted to share this, the difference between average and great. The great recommit to their commitments every single day. The average commit to their commitments when they feel like it. Now, I think, Julie, I can't remember, maybe you mentioned John was up this morning. He may not have felt like it, but he did it. The great recommit to their commitments every single day because the great believe in principles over feelings. There are days when I wake up, that alarm goes off and I'm like, oh man, gee whiz. My bed is comfortable. It's dark outside. It's cold. It's raining. It's whatever. Principles over feelings. Feelings, I can behave my way into feeling like getting in that pool in the morning. I can behave my way into working out in the morning by shutting off my alarm, getting out of bed, making my bed, going through my AM routine, and then getting into the water, getting into my workout. Sweat before screens. So step 4, how do we measure it? Our coaches will tell you they hear this quote a billion times throughout the year. Show me what you measure and I'll tell you what you treasure. Show me what you measure and I'll tell you what you treasure. And if you don't measure anything, guess what? Then you treasure nothing and your results will align with what you treasure. If you're getting random results, it is because you randomly measure or you don't measure. If we say we want to become a champion, then we must follow the 5-step process. And if we're not measuring it, which is one of the most important components of our 5-step goal process, then our results are going to be left up to chance and not choice. And if we say we want to become a champion or whatever it is you want to become a 1480, then we must follow that process and recommit to our commitments every single day. And measuring is an important component. And you're probably wondering, well, how do I measure it? Well, it's real simple. I told you you're going to leave here with strategies. I'm going to give you another strategy. The behaviors, as I mentioned in step 2, must be specific and measurable. If you download the Habit Share app, I don't get any money from them to promote it. I just use it. Habit Share app is where we can measure our progress towards our goal that gives us goosebumps. So here's a little graphic that I also share with our coaches and our student athletes. What do we measure? What do we do to recognize? And then what is our process? So measurement is motivation. So every time in my Habit Share app, when I click that I shut off my alarm at 4:40 a.m., 4:45, whatever time it's set for, I hit the little green button, and that is an accomplishment for the day. I make my bed, that's a green dot, accomplishment for the day. I get my 1,000 yards of swimming, green dot, 1,000 yards a day, green dot. Again, I'm measuring the behaviors necessary for me to live for the rest of my life or live my best life. Measurement is motivation. When I hit that green dot, it inspires me. Recognize behavior is repeated behavior. Reward yourself. Whatever your goal is for the week, for the day, reward yourself. Measure the process, you get more process. I said it earlier, you got to trust the process. What is the process? Are you measuring your process? And when you get more process, you get more success. And here's a little quote I wanted to share. Don't decide your future, decide your habits, and your habits will decide your future. So we talked about that big goal. That's fantastic. You've got it on your vision board. You see it every single day. And now let's identify those behaviors and create habits that align with our goals and commit to those commitments every single day. Here's an example of what Habit Share looks like. So hit my alarm, no snooze button. Some folks will set their alarm 45 minutes before they really want to wake up in the morning. And then they hit the snooze. And then they hit the snooze and they're like, that's the most fantastic sleep of the day. No, it's not. You're not even sleeping. You're actually thinking about when that alarm goes off again. So you're not sleeping. So if you want to get up at whatever time you want to get up after hitting the snooze alarm 75 times, then set your alarm for that time and get up. And then start your day 1-0 by hitting that alarm, shutting it off, no snooze button. Make your bed every single day. It's the little things that mean a lot. Swim 1,000 yards, 150 push-ups. I listen to the Brian Cain daily. If I scroll down, you'll be able to see the Gilbert daily. You'll be able to see some more about my nutrition, some more about my mental development, my leadership development, etc. So that's what Habit Share looks like, and you can track it. The beautiful thing is you can share it with a friend. Again, 1480, start hanging out with 1480. You want to be a champion, then stop hanging out with champions. Think about who we surround ourselves with. And that's how we measure it. Focus on the behaviors that get you closer to your desired results. And our kids will tell you, Mr. Wood, sometimes the kids will quote me. In fact, at the graduation, one of our student speakers quoted, Mr. Wood says, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. When I'm scrolling through Twitter, when I'm scrolling through Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, I stop, I'm looking at some negativity, my energy goes towards negativity. Eliminate it. If I'm hanging out with friends that don't align with where I say I'm going to go, eliminate it, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. Step 5, assess it. We use two different strategies to assess our progress towards our goal. And this piece is the missing piece within a lot of teams, within a lot of athletes, within a lot of organizations, within a lot of staffs, whatever. Assess it. What did we do well? What do we need to do better? And how are we going to do it? Our athletes will journal every day after practice, every day after competition. What did I do well? What did I need to do better? What do I need to do better? How are we going to do it? Our postseason talks after competition, simple. Coach asks 3 questions. What do we do well? What do we need to do better? How are we going to do it? And then the stop, start, continue strategy. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And then what do I need to continue doing? Those are two strategies that I would encourage you to begin journaling every single day, and journaling about the behaviors that you engaged in that day that align with your goal. Here's an example. Here's what athletes do. They go to practice, they compete, they repeat. They go to practice, they compete, they repeat. Practice, compete, repeat. Coaches, they plan the practice, they compete, they repeat. They plan the practice, they compete, they repeat. There's one thing missing, and that's the reflection piece. That's the assessment piece. And that is where the real growth happens, the reflection phase of our 5-step goal process. I was in a little training yesterday, and I was listening to a staff member talk to another staff member from another school, not here. There's a lot of people there, like 81. An individual from school X said this about their staff meetings. They talked about not staying on task. They get off the agenda, off topic, sidebar conversation. So the question I heard was, how are we doing with staying on task and keeping our time? Another teacher said, terrible. Good. And then this goes on after every meeting. Consecutive meetings, we're not getting any better at being time on task. And so what's missing there, we identify the behavior, but we don't reflect and do a well, better, how. What are we doing well? What do we need to do better? And then how are we going to do it? In this case, I would encourage them to do a stop, start, continue. What do we need to stop doing? We need to stop having sidebar conversations. We need to start remaining true to our agenda and the time allotted for each segment of our agenda. And then what do we need to continue doing? We need to continue tracking the time spent on task. So people that are too busy to reflect are also too busy to grow. Again, I shared that slide with the athletes and the coaches. If we are too busy to reflect, then we are too busy to grow, which is why that step 5 is so important, and will oftentimes separate the average from the great, or the great from the average. I want to share, Kara, I know we got started a few minutes late. How am I doing on time?
If you have about 5 more minutes, John, I don't know if you have any Q&A, and then we're going to take a 10-minute break, and Ms. Smith will start us off at 10:45.
Perfect. I'm going to share this real quick because this is the last part of the assessment. What happened in 2015? He looked, and I'm going to share this with you. So if you look at this image, that's our son there at the bottom in the black shorts, black cap. And if you notice, this is the start of the 50 freestyle at New Trier High School in 2015 at the state finals, the last race of the 50 free. So Peyton was the first one off the blocks, probably had the rest of the competition by a couple feet. When he got to the end of the pool, he was in first place in the 50 free. When he came back and touched the wall, he was in 5th place of the 50 free. We celebrated like heck. Here's our junior child that finished 5th in the state in the 50 free. So excited, and asked him after he got his medal and did all that, where he wanted to go eat dinner before we had to hit the road to head back to Champaign. And he said, Daddy, I looked. I said, I don't understand what you mean. Where are we going to eat? He said, Daddy, I looked. I said, what did you look at? He said, when I hit the wall, I knew I was in first. But I looked down the pool. You notice he's in the far lane, near side lane for us. And he looked down the pool to his left, and he noticed he was in first. That split second that he spent looking was the difference between 5th and first. And so by him recognizing, assessing, doing a well, better, how, a stop, start, continue, he was able to reflect on his performance. And because he was willing to reflect on his performance and not have somebody do it to him or for him, he was able to grow. And so his well, better, how, my start and my strokes were great. I need to focus on me. That's what I need to do to get better. And I need to focus on my 3 keys. And his 3 keys became, I'm a bullet, next stroke, breathe. I'm a bullet, next stroke, breathe. Notice there's nothing in there that says look down and see what the competition is doing, because they have 0 influence on his performance. His stop, start, continue, easy, stop looking. Daddy, I look, well, stop, stop looking. Focus on me, and then continue my daily habits. And then in 2016, after the reflection, after recommitting to his commitments, there he is at Evanston High School and won the state title in the 50 freestyle. By his reflection allowed him to grow. His reflection allowed him to experience the success that was on his vision board, which was becoming a state champion in the 50 free. So I want to scroll down here and share another strategy with you. And again, Carrie, you can share all this with everybody, but how do we train focus? And Brian has these concentration grids that I would encourage you to check out. Oftentimes you hear coaches say, you need to focus, but we don't train focus. And the concentration grids are a great way. You can do it online. You can print them to train your focus. And the concentration grids are simple. Something that I wanted to share, something that made a difference in that little boy's life that I shared with you just a few minutes ago. And so one of the last things I want to finish with, we talk about attitude and belief. We know that the lion is the king of the jungle. We know that the lion is the king of the jungle. And you can see why. But the lion is not the biggest. Elephants are bigger. It's not the tallest. Giraffes are taller. It's not the heaviest. Hippos are heavier. It's not the fastest. Cheetahs are faster. It's not the smartest. Hyenas are smarter. Not the most intelligent. We know chimpanzees are more intelligent than the lion. Why is the lion the king of the jungle? When an elephant sees a lion, he runs, even though the elephant is bigger. The elephant is the victim of how he or she thinks. When the lion sees an elephant, he charges towards the elephant because he believes, 1480, believes he can eat the elephant. The lion is the king of the jungle because he has a different attitude. A lion's actions reflect the way he thinks. Once that individual saw the 1480, he started thinking he was a 1480, started behaving he was a 1480, and the attitude makes all of the difference. And I want you to just see this here real quick. We talk about believe in at Libertyville. We're not asking anybody to buy into anything. We want you to believe in something. We want to create something that you believe in. Just like the expectation is that you believe in your goal that gives you goosebumps. You believe in step 2 of identifying those behaviors. You believe in scheduling those behaviors necessary for you to reach your goal. You believe in measuring those behaviors. You believe in the reflection process. I'm not asking you to buy into anything. Believe in it. Does the lion ask all of the other animals in the jungle to buy into the fact that the lion is the king of the jungle, or is the lion the king of the jungle because of his actions and his beliefs? So think about that. If you want to become the king of the jungle, whatever your jungle may be, start believing it, start acting it, making sure that we follow that 5-step goal process. And remember, if we focus on our behaviors, we may fall short of our goals, which could be caused by something beyond our control. Somebody might just be faster. Somebody might be better. Somebody might be whatever. Something might have gotten our way. But nothing will ever get in the way of you achieving your commitment to your behaviors, unless you make the choice to allow that to happen. So, covered the people follow what you do, not what you say. 5-step goal process. Measurement is motivation. The king of the jungle does not happen within you, then it will not happen through you, which goes back to the leadership component. And then we talk all the time, how you do anything is how you do everything. I know I went a few minutes over, sorry. What questions might you have to enhance your understanding of the process I shared?
Yeah, maybe even just time for one question. You can say it out loud or you can type it into the chat box, but if you've got it, let it fly.
We can also take additional questions in the chat and email them to John. So if there's things that pop up as you're processing the information, you can always reach out to John and get those responses for you as well. George, looks like you have your hand back up.
What were the name of the podcasts that you mentioned?
Yeah, great question. Brian Cain, C-A-I-N. No relation to John, a little different spelling. Brian Cain, C-A-I-N, Mental Performance Daily. And then Dr. Rob Gilbert, Success Hotline. And Dr. Rob has been doing it for over 11,400 consecutive days. Brian just got started, I think, about 310 or 11 days ago.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much for just sharing your learnings and insight with us. Like Kara said, if you have any other questions, guys, you can put them in the chat and we'll send them on over to John. And I think he'd be more than willing to answer them for us. It is time for you kings of the jungle to take a 10-minute break here. So believe in what you need to do in this next 10 minutes, just like we learned. So if you need to have a snack, oh, Kara says 5 minutes. If you need a snack, use the washroom, go stretch. We'll see you back here at 10:45.
Thank you so much again, John. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Feel free to share my email if folks want to reach out and have questions or do a deeper dive into anything that I shared. Always willing to help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Right.
I'm gonna
You
get
bet.
those books.
Yeah, check them out.
I will.
Start on Optimize first.
Oh, let me-
All right, I'm going to bounce. There's the bell. Thanks again. And you guys have a great day and enjoy your
Thank
summer.
you. You too.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So it's a real privilege for me to introduce our next keynote speaker here this morning. Her name is CathyAnn Smith. Not only is she a gem of a human, she is the leader of the chapter at Conant High School. Just all around great human, and played softball, coached softball, and has a real heart for the whole idea of the Illinois Human Performance Project and the method around the modules. And we have a real treat in store for us here. She's going to share a bit of her story and lead us in the thought that we can't be guided by our fear. So CathyAnn, welcome, and please take it away.
Thank you so much, Julie, for those kind words. I feel the same about all of you. I want to welcome you guys. I appreciate all of you being here. We're gonna kick this off. I do have a story to share. It's more of a storytelling moment today, but there's a short, like 4-question little survey that Kara is going to make sure that you all can access, and it'll take like 2 minutes, and then we're going to talk about it. It's in the chat. If you can answer those, and then we're going to talk about it here as I wrap up, and you'll see how it all ties in. Okay, so as you saw my story, okay, Kara, if you wanted to, go ahead and share the outline that I have, if everybody wants to kind of see and follow it along, I'm going to kind of talk about some points there. As Julie shared with you, I was a softball player through high school and college, and I was also a softball coach. So a little bit of my story is about me being an athlete. And if you notice, fear is something that is often associated with athletics, right? I mean, John did some great moments and talked about, how to overcome your fear, how to be stronger, how to, have the courage. And well, I'll be honest with you, when I was a high school softball player, I played on the varsity at Schaumburg High School, if some of you know where that is. And I loved pitching. I was a pitcher. Well, pitching is a nerve-wracking position because you're right smack dab in the middle of this circle, right? And everybody's staring at you, and the whole thing can't start until you actually throw the ball. So performance is a thing. But I never really thought too much of it. I loved it until my junior year. We were in a summer tournament in Rockford. And if you've ever been in Rockford in the summertime at any kind of baseball field, that sun just beats down on you. Okay. And we were doing okay. And we had actually made it to the championship game. And, we were just a small local travel team. Now travel is, exploded, and it's huge, and there's clubs for everything. But ultimately, we were just a small travel group of Schaumburg kids, Conant kids, Hoffman kids. That's how travel started back in the 90s, like before you guys were even born. Okay. And we had made it to the championship game, and we were playing against this team, and they all looked like Amazon women. Like if you've seen the movie Wonder Woman, they all had that same athletic, tall, huge appearance. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to pitch this game. I'm sure she'll call on, our teammate that also played shortstop, but she was much faster. And, and my coach came to me and said, you're going to pitch this game. And I said, are you sure? And immediately I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Reason being, I was more of a finesse-ish pitcher. I'm a lefty. I threw a lot of junk pitches. I only topped out at a speed of like 54 in my high school career, which, these days is more of a slower speed. If you've been watching the College World Series, those women, they hit almost 70. So I thought, there's no way I can do this. I'm going to fail my team. There's no way. I am not a person to do this. And my coach just looked at me and she's like, you're going to do this and you're going to be fine. I was terrified. Okay. And I went out there and, I started pitching the balls that she was calling and my catcher was calling. And, we had a girl that popped the ball up. And then we had, a girl that struck out against me. I'm just this little itty, what's going on? And as the game progressed, I started to feel a little bit more confident. And my coach just kept telling me, you're fine, you've got this. Long story short, we did actually win that game. We won 2-1. And I, to this day, was like, I don't understand. I can't believe it. My coach pulled me aside and said, I knew that you were the right person for this. Okay. Now at 17 years old, I thought she was crazy and so on and so forth. And I was like, well, I'm glad it worked out. I got lucky. Fast forward, okay, to my life as a college player. I'm doing my thing, but I'm really struggling. I was struggling in math. Okay. I am an English teacher by default here. Math wasn't my thing. I was struggling in math in a college class. I was struggling so poorly that my coach had told me, Kath, if you don't pass this test, we can't take you with us on our spring break trip. And we were going to Georgia and Florida. And I was like, okay, I've got this. And I studied all the time. I did practice problems. I was doing everything I could. Okay. And then basically I took the test. I was ready. I got in there. I got the test back and I didn't pass the test. I was devastated. I thought, okay, my life is over. Softball career is ending. I can't do this. I went to Grand Valley State University in Michigan, Division II school. It was smaller back in 1992, which is when this happened. And I had a professor that said, CathyAnn, I know that you've been trying hard and stuff. Why don't you come to my office and we'll go over the test? Because he knew the devastation. He had talked to my coach. So I went that afternoon and started to go over the test with him. What I didn't realize he was doing is he actually was giving me the test orally and asking me, what would I do on this problem? What would I do on that problem? And I ended up passing the test. And he looked at me and he said, a lot of what you're writing is reversed from what you're saying. He's like, I knew you knew the process, but what I was writing down was mixed up. Turns out his wife was a professor at Grand Valley as well in the psychology department. And he sent me over there and he says, they do some like testing and some things. He goes, why don't you go see my wife and talk to her? Long story short, I worked with her. I did some testing and found out that I have a learning disability called dyscalculia. And it's very similar to dyslexia, where you mix up letters when you're reading. For me, it was numbers. So putting numbers in the correct order, I may think that I'm writing them correctly, but I'm actually not. Okay. And so the process was kind of mixed up. I had a lot of mixed feelings about that. I said, wow, well, now what? The fear set in. I can't tell my coach that there's something wrong with me. So do I tell him this is why I failed the test and have my teammates look at me like I'm weird? Or do I tell him so that I can go play because my professor told me I technically then passed that test? And I was frozen. I just sat there. I wasn't sure what to do with that. My professor talked to me and he's like, you know what, I'm going to talk to your coach. We're going to work this out and so on and so forth. Well, that moment was my second moment of fear. So my first was in high school. My second was that moment. What did I do with it? Well, I was a psychology major at the time. Wasn't sure really what I was doing with that. I just knew I liked it. Well, I said, if I'm having this problem, there's got to be other athletes that maybe are struggling with academics or so on and so forth. And eventually that turned me towards being a special education major. And I went into special education and became a special ed teacher. Loved my career. I taught that for the first 18 years of my life. My third element that I was afraid of happened as a coach. So here I am. I'm playing ball as a high schooler and a college kid. I had two major moments in my life of fear. I kind of like said, all right, they turned out okay, didn't think too much of them. And here I am coaching. Well, I was a JV coach and I was planning on maybe applying for the varsity job if it came, available. The varsity coach had told me she might be stepping down in a couple of years because she had a job outside of Conant High School as a park district director. She ended up getting hired sooner than later and came and told me, if you want to apply for the head job, you're going to have to do it this year because I won't be back. And I said, this year? Well, it was February and I was painting the nursery for the child that I was pregnant with, 7 months pregnant with, so to speak. I thought, there's no way they're going to hire me for this season, 7 months pregnant. I can't do this. What am I thinking? And I thought that was it. Like I'll, my bucket list was to maybe be a varsity coach one day. And I thought, well, that's just not going to happen. So I first didn't put in my paperwork. And a colleague of mine, who was the assistant athletic director, said, yeah, I didn't see your paperwork. And I said, well, look at me. She's like, put your paperwork in. Okay. So I did. Nervous, assumed there's no way, this is a big obstacle. I mean, a natural obstacle I couldn't get over, obviously. And long story short, I was hired as the varsity softball coach that year and did it for 18 plus years after that. So 3 major moments in my life that I stopped myself from thinking I could do something, right? And you're thinking, okay, yeah, big deal. You're here, you're doing everything that you said you wanted to do. You've had a successful career, so on and so forth. But the thing that I reflect on now is that the biggest part of all 3 of those moments were I had to trust someone else in my life. I had to say, okay, coach, if you think I'm the right person for this, I'll give it a shot. Okay. Well, how many of us don't ever want to trust or don't think about that? Okay. I mean, you have to do something that someone else thinks that you can do. It's a very scary thing because you always think you know yourself best. Sometimes maybe we don't. Sometimes maybe we need to hand that trust over to the next person. Okay. I had to do that. If I had stopped playing softball that day because I was so afraid of what other people thought of my learning disability or that I wasn't going to be good enough now because, academically I struggled with something, I probably wouldn't maybe be here with you all because I would have never coached. I would have never gone into teaching. So when I think back to that, I think, all right, that was because I trusted the process, right? Even though there wasn't a term for it back then. Coaching, it was my dream, but I was ready to just push it aside because I thought I knew better. we sometimes have to let go of what we think we know because we don't have all the answers, even though we think we do, right? So when you think about it, okay, in that survey, Kara, did it work or?
Yeah.
It did. Okay. So if we can, there we go. Perfect.
Oh, did it show? I wasn't sure if I had the right.
Yeah, it did show, but then it,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me put it back up.
Okay. So if we look at this, okay, my first question is, have you ever been so afraid, okay, of trying out for a team that it prevented you from performing your best? Okay. And the blue one, most of you said yes, but you made the team anyway. Okay. The red is yes, but I did not make the team. So we didn't have any of those situations. Yellow, no. I can't read it. It's just.
No, I'm never nervous.
Okay. No, I'm never nervous. I love that. Those of you that have that one, you're golden. Okay. And yes, but I was still nervous.
Able to perform at my best.
Okay.
This one.
So we have a variety, right? Yes, you made the team, but where did you end up with on that team? Okay. Did you end up with a starting position? Did you end up getting what you wanted out of it? If so, then awesome. Okay. But there's a group of your teammates maybe that fall into the realm that I'm sharing. Like they get themselves so worked up and so nervous that they can't perform their best, right? And then they don't end up doing what they can possibly do because that fear of messing up takes over, okay? So if we look at this next one, you're afraid to talk to your teacher or coach about your performance, okay? Yes, sometimes. So we don't have any no's, okay? So what causes that fear? Anybody want to share for that second one? Like what causes that fear of talking to a teacher or coach? Okay, and maybe you don't know what causes that fear. It's just a natural instinct, right? Like, okay, fear of rejection, right? I'm going to say something and they're going to shut me down, okay? Because they're in charge, all right? You don't want to get judged. Like what you're saying is not smart enough, okay? I see this in my classroom all the time. I'll have a student say, well, maybe this is a stupid question, but why? Why would any question be stupid, right? We all know that. But the first instinct is to say, well, I don't think this is right, but how many of you have done that in class, right? You raise your hand and you're like, this may not be right, but I think, because then you have an out. Like, well, if I'm not right, then at least I acknowledge that I wasn't right and people won't judge me as much, okay? How can we get over that? Why should we get over that? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, okay? You are afraid to make a mistake in a sport, okay? Sometimes, okay? We don't have any nevers there, okay? So again, we're sometimes afraid, but we go with it because we feel confident in what we're doing for the most part. But then often is 40%. So if you think about it, if you're afraid to mess up, are you really giving 110% to what you're doing? It's not possible, right? Because you're sitting there going, oh, I don't want to mess up, so I'm going to do this perfectly right. Well, if you're thinking about that much, it's just not physically or mentally possible then for you to just go all out and let instinct take over. You've been doing this. Some of you have probably been training in your sport since you were itty bitties, right? Pee-wee soccer or baseball or whatever sport you have. So think about that, okay? And then the last one I think I asked is, Kara, could you read that?
Yeah, the way you struggle handling grades lower than an A, a bad game, or a personal slump is, and then they needed to choose all that apply. The highest response was brush it off and work to get better next time. The second response was want to immediately talk to the teacher or coach for advice. And the third response was immediately feel like a failure and doubt you are good at anything.
Okay. So the first two sound like we've got this, but then we've got a third one, right? So at any given time, you may choose one of these responses depending on the situation, right? Well, again, your ability to overcome your fears is going to take you on a path. So in the beginning, the one thing that I had skipped over because I wasn't sure if we could see it is, and again, this series may be a little old for you, but do you remember ever reading those choose your own adventure stories when you guys were kids? Okay. And they were cool books. They were all adventure stories. And then you got to the end and it said, okay, if you want to go discover the gold, turn to page 48. And if you want to, you know, get back on the ship and go home, turn to page this, right? So you had an option. Well, think about the 3 moments that I shared with you, and then think about your own moments where you've really been faced with something where you're like, ooh, I don't think I'm going to try that. I'm not going to take that risk because I'm afraid. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be rejected. So you chose the path of safety, right? If I don't put myself out there or try something new because I think I can't do it, or I'm afraid that other people are going to think this about me, or I'm going to mess up and it's going to affect my team, I'm just not going to do it. Okay, well then what you thought won't happen, right? There won't be any mistakes by you maybe, right? Because you didn't put yourself out there, but then you also missed out on an opportunity or an experience. So you chose the safest path, but if you keep choosing that safe path, does that get you to your ultimate goals, right? So John did an awesome conversation with us and he talked about so many things. And the big one that kept coming back to me was in his step 2 when he says courage, right? Do we have the courage to, fear, get over the fear of the unknown? You are not always as smart as you think you are when you assume you know what the outcome is going to be, right? So I assumed, okay, and I'm sure you've heard what assume could stand for, that if I had gone out there and pitched in my junior year against that huge Wonder Woman Amazon team, that we were going to get killed, my teammates were going to be miserable, we were all going to be dying, and I was going to feel like a failure. That's what I truly believed was going to happen if I went out there and pitched. There was no way I would have expected that outcome. I obviously wasn't the smartest person in the room that day, okay? Same thing with my learning disability. If I had assumed that was something that was going to be my obstacle and I was only capable of doing, this and not being a student athlete anymore, well, where would my safe path have taken me, right? I wouldn't be talking to you all, which I love doing. And then the third one would be, I would have never had the opportunity to reach my goal and be a coach, right? And I loved it. I loved every moment of it. The only reason I stopped is because I had a son who also played baseball, who I was pregnant with when I got the job. And I really wanted to see him play his senior year of high school baseball. And well, those 2 seasons are the same time. So I said, it's time for me to step down and give it to, some younger people. And one of my former athletes stepped up and took over, and it was great. So I had to let go of thinking I knew the best answer, that I knew what was going to happen. Okay. So when we think about mental toughness, right? What is it? You can read books. Okay. John gave us some awesome things. But the biggest thing that I took away based on what I am sharing with you all is his picture about the ship, right? So I love George's answer when he said, how do you think the ship sank? Well, it hit a rock. Okay. Well, if it hit a rock, it was probably had a hole and it was allowing the water in, right? That water was coming in and drowning you and your thoughts and your ability to function, okay? So if you let in all of those things that you think are gonna affect you, well, you aren't going to be able to sail like you should, whether it be in class, whether it be in your sport, whether it just be in life, okay? A lot of times we're afraid to talk or ask people something because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be looked, but you're never going to learn. You never know what opportunity you're going to miss if you let that fear keep you in that safe world, okay? So ultimately, I just wanted to share with you that, you know, the adults that you're maybe afraid to talk to or be judged by, they have a story too. So you never know what the story is of the person that you're speaking with. So give it a shot. Maybe your story is something that they could help you with or vice versa. I learn from my students all the time. And I've been doing this for 27 years. So put it out there. Your story is just as important. So at this point, oh, there's one more thing. In your boxes that Kara sent to you, there were some Hershey Kisses, okay? And on my slide here, I have 3 words, all right? So you may have a few more Hershey Kisses than 3, which is awesome because chocolate is just the best, unless you're allergic to it. But think about those, take out 3 Hershey Kisses, and if you put them in a triangle, okay? A triangle is actually a more stable shape than any other shape we have out there because each point has a base, right? And if you actually held up like a surface triangle of any kind of thing and you try to push it down, it's not going to collapse as much as, say, a square or anything else. So think of that triangle and give yourself 3 words. What are 3 words that you can either give yourself that are positives that could make you go to as your mantra, right? Like when I'm trying to get over my fear, I'm going to, you know, speak up. Okay, that's 2 words, but make that point 1, right? My next one is going to be maybe share. Okay, you're going to share something with someone. Okay, your other point is going to be maybe act. I'm going to act on what I feel as opposed to holding back. Okay, so those Hershey Kisses, put them in a triangle and make that a symbol of you can overcome your fear by looking at the 3 things that make up who you are, okay, or what you want to get over, all right? And then pop them in your mouth and enjoy them and go for it. So that's ultimately what I wanted to share with you. And I thought I'd open it up. And if anybody has any questions, anything you want to talk about, some, you know, words of wisdom that you need advice on how to overcome something. And if not, and you guys are all rock stars and don't have any fears, then that is awesome. Then I am not needed. And I'm okay with that too.
I would personally be curious if anyone on the call is willing to share maybe a word that they had written down of one of those 3 pieces of their triangle. Mine, one of them was just to reflect, to kind of start out and reflect where it's stemming from. Sometimes what we think is the cause of fear is not always the root cause of where it's really stemming from. So something that you might think, oh, just fearful of getting, you know, in a sports situation, getting hit by the ball. Maybe there's a larger underlying fear that you might need to reflect on and better understand where it's stemming from so you can grow from that larger fear and build off of that. So that was one of the words that I wrote down, but I'd love to hear what other people wrote.
I wrote down presence for one of mine. That's a huge one for me every day, is just trying to stay in the moment. And I feel like that's where a lot of fear comes from, is like worrying about what's going to happen next or next week, or sometimes it's fun to look to the future, but also sometimes it can be kind of detrimental to like what you're working on right now.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Leah.
One of my words is unknown. I need to make sure that I'm not afraid of the unknown. And I still to this day get nervous about that. When Kara asked me to speak and switch my days, I immediately was like, can I do this? Can I? And I thought, well, what's the worst that could happen? You could all turn off your screens and say, this lady's terrible, right? Okay. But that didn't happen. So I guess we're okay.
You are amazing, Miss Smith. So don't doubt that. Anyone else willing?
I was just going to jump in and say, for me, my first one was just truth. Just really looking in the situation and seeing what's true and what's not, and not letting what's negative or false lead me to believing that, and just, identifying the real situation.
Great. Eva, how about you? What would you say was one of your points?
One of my points I said right away was confidence, because I feel like sometimes in a new environment, it's hard to trust yourself in all your abilities, especially it's so quick to judge yourself. Like on a new team, you can think everyone is so good, and then you get nervous, but then I just need to be confident in anything I can do. And then I liked what Mr. Smith said, you're smarter than you think. And I think I just have to believe in myself all the time.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Other Ava. We've got two, Eva and Ava.
Well, one of my words is just breathe, because sometimes just need to take a step back and just breathe, focus myself.
Thank you. Any others?
I would say I would use the word ask. So ask questions, ask for help. No, people shouldn't judge you just because you ask a question, and it doesn't hurt to ask, because if you don't ask, you'll never know what the answer is. It's always no if you don't ask.
Yes, love that. Something that HPP really stands for is we love questions. No question is a dumb question. That's so important. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing that. Thank you, CathyAnn, for giving me a moment to listen into those.
Yes.
Any other questions for CathyAnn, or thoughts that are come your way from either of our talks this morning? All right. So curious, did everyone get their package from HPP? Has that come in the mail? Thumbs up? Yeah, sweet.
I
it
saw
good?
Ava eating the chocolate, so I knew we were good.
Was it pretty stellar to you? Were you like, sweet, there's some good stuff in here? Okay, great. We thought it was pretty sweet when we were packaging them. I'm glad that you all received them. If any of you didn't, you should definitely have it by today. I think today was the last day that you could be waiting on it.
I would say maybe our Ohio folks may need an extra day, but our Illinois folks for sure, hopefully by today.
Great. So we are back at it next Wednesday on the 15th, and our theme for that day is to wrap your conference t-shirt that's in that package. So we'll all aim to wear those next Wednesday. We'll be hearing from Jason from APS on stress resilience, as well as Bailey Giannakakos on functional foods and fueling. And I think those are all the important things. Kara, am I missing anything for next week?
No, I don't think so. Of course, if there's anything that comes up in between, please feel free to reach out to us. You guys should have gotten the emails and reminders, and we'll continue to send those out. So you'll always be up to date on the happenings.
No, that's all we had. I think it's been a great first start here to our conference. Thank you all for coming. Feel free to bring any friends along with. There's a simple way they can register to get the link, and we'd be happy to mail out a t-shirt to them and some goodies along the way if they can join us. But we're just super grateful for you and glad that you came. So I don't have anything else. So you can hang around here till 11:30, or feel free to hop on off and enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Thanks, CathyAnn.
Take care.